I'm Jay.
I'm Adrian.
And together we are the
Two Crazy Cat Ladies.
I'm gonna cut you.
I think I just peed.
Buckle up.
We're back in the closet.
Welcome to another episode of Back in the Closet with the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. And guys, this one is going to be a fun one and a very exciting and informational podcast for you guys because we are joined by like our new favorite freaking human on the planet. We literally just met in July for the first time.
Yeah.
Has a master's degree in pet nutrition, which I'm really excited about talking to you about a little bit. And literally makes the only small batch homemade bone broth in some novel proteins, which is so important for our kitties because everybody, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it all to introduce our beautiful friend, Flo.
Flo Mason, you gorgeous girl. What are you laughing at? Was Mickey?
I don't know why your intro just makes me die laugh. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stop. I was like, hopefully nobody can see me, but then I realized I was still laughing. Oh, that was great. I think I just peed.
I know. I'm not too far away from some
that is so funny.
depends.
I'm not too far away from some depends.
You know, like the belly laughs get me every now and then. I mean, I haven't had any accidents. I'm just saying, but sometimes, come on, y'all. You know what it's like to laugh so hard. You're like, you're holding on for dear life.
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens to the best of us. So,
okay.
Anyway, Flo.
Okay, for anyone that doesn't already know who you are, just a little intro into what are you doing?
Your master's degree in pet nutrition and how you founded Crude Carnivore.
Yes. So thank you for having me on, by the way. I am like super excited about this conversation. And I feel like we met in Virginia, which by the way, that took me a second earlier. I was like, what month is it even? We just like connected and it was just so much fun. And so I am super honored to do this with you guys and to work with you guys. So super fun. But yeah, I'm Flo. I live in Southern Illinois with my husband and who is also probably watching and also probably really sad that he's not here.
But yeah,
we have 4 dogs and now I think 5 cats. And I have a master's degree in animal nutrition. Like you said, I went to Southern Illinois University and got a bachelor's degree in animal production out of all things. And at that time, like nutrition and healing dogs didn't really like click for me yet. So I was actually wanting to go into like rehabilitation and massage therapy. And so I was like, I'll just do my master's degree in nutrition. There was an opportunity with a professor to do the specific study that was pet food specific. And I was like, and I'll just get a big job somewhere and then we'll go into the massage thing. Well, I did that, started my master's degree, and then found a local natural pet supply store 2 months in and just started learning so much about products and pet food industry and working with pet parents like one-on-one. And I completely derailed my whole plan. And I still want to do like acupuncture and massage and all that stuff because I think it's really really helpful. I've seen it with my dogs, but oh my gosh, if there's one thing that I took away from that time is just how much food is just the cause of so many things that our pets are struggling with.
So tell me who taught or where did the curriculum come from for the master's in animal nutrition?
So that's kind of a question that I get often because people are like, wait, what'd you learn? Like how, like, do you learn that specifically? And really, honestly, I will tell you is that through my exposure to the store, I personally got super curious and interested in nutrition and the pet products and the body of the dog and the cat. And through the program, it was very targeted to like the functions and mobility of vitamins and minerals in the body and like super specific. And I had to take like a ration class for cows, and like there was some things that just like didn't really pertain. So a lot of times people think like, oh wow, like, you know, you have a master's degree in animal nutrition, and I have that, and I learned a lot of those nitty-gritty specific things about nutrients that you will never speak to anybody about. Like, and a lot of it is just like in one ear out the other. But you learn a lot about kind of more like how food behaves and how nutrients behave in the body. And I also ran into my professor, I don't even know, before the summer at a local store. And I was like, hey, I wanted to come talk to you because I want to know how much things have changed. Because, you know, whatever, it's now 8 years ago. 8 years ago, you know, this probably looked different. And I'm hoping that it's somewhat different now, because I'm hoping that it's much more specific to truly how to feed the carnivore and how to, you know, nourish the pet in front of you. And it's more customizable. And he looked at me and he was like, Flo, it's 85% different from what you did. So I like that. And I actually have to go in and meet with him, because he said that he would help me, like, or he would show me what it looks like now and let me look over the material to see how it lines up with what I do now and what I've learned myself over, you know, all those years of working with pets and pet parents. So I don't even know if that answered your question, but
you basically learned more at your local pet store than you did getting your master's degree in pet nutrition.
I would say that I learned a lot more myself. Like they kind of set the seeds for sure, because they were already, you know, in that field. And I did learn a lot through the master's degree. But the thing is that it depends on which field you run into. If you're going to go and work for Purina with a master's degree in animal nutrition, then you're going to utilize that information probably much differently than I utilize that information.
Correct.
Because of how I educated myself further outside of that master's degree. It just depends on how you use it. Like I can use it and utilize it to know, okay, these nutrients behave this way in the body. You know, this is what we're needing here, from like a holistic standpoint, versus other people may use it in like pet food formulation or, you know, on a larger scale. So it just kind of depends on what you're going into. I would say it's not really that specific. And I definitely can't say that I learned like how to raw feed your dog or cat. It wasn't that targeted. It was very broad about food. But then my thesis was about omega-3 fatty acids in dog food. So we used a general dog food, and we used natural preservatives. So like turmeric, grapeseed extract, pomegranate, to see which protects the fatty acids the most, because pet food is cooked at such high temperatures, and then the fats that are in it don't survive that. So they typically will spray. We talked about this. They'll spray fats on the outside. And so a lot of the cheaper pet foods use like synthetic preservatives like BHA, BHT.
Yep.
So we did a comparison. We said, okay, let's see if some of these can outperform those synthetics. And they did. Turmeric and grapeseed extract tremendously outperformed the chemical synthetic preservatives. And so that was my focus, was the dog food and omega-3 fatty acids. So that's kind of what made it like targeted companion animal nutrition. But a lot of it is myself reading like 5 million books, and just also through experiencing it. And I really just enjoy the conversation, and I love helping pet parents make transitions and changes to the pet's diet to see. And I love the beginning stages. Like I love helping pet parents be like, I feed my cat or dog this food. What can I do to make it better? And then seeing how they implement stuff and how the dog changes or the cat changes. And that's like my favorite part.
Same. It's the small little seeds that we get to plant that like and watch grow that makes it like so exciting. We basically stay in the 101 world for the most part, right? I mean, like we learn in the 201 and we learn for but we love the 101.
Yeah, it's like
it makes a big difference that someone who's as crazy smart as you are,
yeah,
really being part of that bridge in a way. And we'll get into really what you do and your whole mission behind it. But I have to give a shout out to the incredible Rita Hogan, who was also with us at Nautical Dog.
I love her.
We met you briefly the night before, but it was that day. You just have this vibe, and you're very like. You're crazy smart, but you're also super personable. It's just this magnetic thing. And we're standing over there, and you're at the table with Crude, and we're like, "Who is that girl? Like, she doesn't look old enough to be, like who?
Like who is like she's running this? She's running somebody's
Crude Carnivore's booth.
She's running Crude Carnivore's
and
booth.
Said,
and we had heard of Crude Carnivore.
Yeah,
like we had already heard of Crude Carnivore, and we were like, okay, so who's the girl running Crude Carnivore's booth? And it was lunchtime.
Yeah, Rita said, let's go ask. So we just walked right up to you and be like, who are you? And
I love it. It was kismet from the get.
It's just been.
It was like, and then literally we met one time. I think actually we met also the night before, and I introduced myself or something. And then the next day we saw each other, and I looked at you across the room, and I was like, I'm watching you. That was just like a done deal. Now we're friends.
Done. Friends forever.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about this
Crude Carnivore.
I didn't even talk about it. Sorry, I totally I ramble. You knew.
That is all we do is ramble. Like it's the thing. Everybody knows. Everybody watching, you guys all know that's what we do is we ramble. And we tried it. Like we have like a little script, like we have little bullet points. So we try to stay on point, but we don't. We never do. But I do want to know how Crude Carnivore, like what sparked the idea for Crude Carnivore, and then like how did it come to be?
So I guess you had asked me a question, and you said, what is the biggest takeaway that I have? I don't even know what the question was, but I wrote my points down because I couldn't just pick one. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
So I would say that one of the things I wrote down is that one of the biggest things that I saw in dogs and cats. Also, I primarily have worked with dogs, but cats are very much.
You have more cats than you have dogs.
Yeah, I do now, actually. But I will say that cats are much more. I don't want to say like important, but much more. The education is much more necessary for cat parents, and so that cats can live healthier lives. But anyway, so what I learned, one of the biggest things that I noticed during this entire transition of like my master's degree into the store and, doing years of consultations and just talking to people, is that moisture makes such a big difference. And even just water, like I would recommend pet parents add water to the bowl. And at this time, when I was changing things up and recommending, food switches and adding fresh foods to the bowl, there wasn't really broths out there that were super plain. There wasn't broths that had an added benefit of healing the body. And I was like, I knew that I wanted to have my own business at some point. And I also, though, felt like the raw food was very bland. There was only like HPP dog and cat foods. There wasn't really much variety of like fresh food that was like fresh when you look at it and you can see that it's real food. And so I was like, okay, I think raw food's a great idea. Let's make some raw food. And I was like, you're nuts. Like, this is crazy. So I was like, okay, how can I like start this? And so I was actually on a cruise with my family, and I came home and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go get some bones, throw them in the crock pot. And nothing existed that was herb infused. And I was like, first of all, it's really hard to feed cats and dogs just herbs. They're not just going to eat those. Most of them are bitter. Most of them are, harder. Like you have to make teas and all this stuff. So I was like, why not just infuse them into the broth? Because then you have like the overpowering meat flavor, and you have the herbs that like, you can hide a lot of things in broth. So I went to the butcher and I got some bones, and I had like a little 7-quart crock pot, and I put it on the counter and I made it and I fed it to my dogs, and they loved it. And then then I did some research on herbs, and I mean, I already knew some things, but I just really wanted them to have, bless you, I really wanted them to have a powerful effect in the body. And so that's where like dandelion, parsley, and thyme were like the 3 herbs that I chose. And dandelion is incredible for detoxing the liver. It really supports the liver, and most dogs, at least, have a lot of allergies. And so I was like, what can we do to support a dog that has itching, that is, has allergic reactions a lot? And dandelion is like an antihistamine and helps flush that histamine, breaks that histamine down. So histamine causes an allergic reaction. So we're having this dandelion work through the broth in the body. Thyme is like a really good antiseptic, and just kind of helps move things out of the body. Also, it's a slight diuretic. And then you have parsley, which is a blood filter. So these 3 herbs are just like targeting detoxing, are flushing things out of the body. Our pets are exposed to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chemicals every single day. Our pets are on our floor. We use toxic cleaning products. Like, there's just so much that goes into the health of our pets anymore these days. But this was something basic that we could just do. So I was like, all right, let's just try it. My dogs loved it. I was nervous because the herbs are bitter. Dandelion especially is pretty bitter. But they loved it. And so, yeah, that's how kind of Crude Carnivore came about. And the other thing that was really important to me is that I want to support all animals in the process. So for me, the life of a cow, the life of a pig matters. And to me, their livelihood and their health and their happiness is really important. So when I then started regularly sourcing, I tried to go to the local farmers market and talk to the farmers about what their practices are. And so through that, we've connected with like a few staple people who supply our bones to us. So one farm is actually certified humane, and he just actually built a chicken processing plant. He got a grant, and he has 4 boys, and he homeschools them and everything. Like, it's just so cool to me that I get to support that family by buying the things that would usually end up in the trash. So that's totally my email going off. So I just really, I just feel like blessed that I get to be somebody who can like take that from them, but use it for something. And that's also in the end, respecting the animal, full circle, because, usually they just get butchered for the meat that us humans consume. But that way we're actually honoring the entire animal and able to use it and make super like healing food out of what is left. So that's how Crude Carnivore came about, and we launched in August 2019. So we just celebrated 5 years, which is insane. And now we have 8 proteins. Like, what? And we're doing a 9th. I don't even know what's happening.
When do you sleep?
Do you sleep at all?
Clearly, I don't. No, I do sleep a lot, actually. I like my 8 hours.
You are a boss. You are a boss. So what makes, like, for someone who doesn't really know benefits of bone broth, or someone that is just totally new, jumping on this podcast, no idea, what is it? And why is it known as a superfood?
Yeah, because it is known as a superfood, even to humans.
Yes.
But to our pets, like, massively, you can see a difference so quickly in our pets.
Right.
Yeah. So bone broth actually heals the gut within 7 to 14 days, which is very, very quickly. That is if it's regularly fed. So, everything has its little like caveat. But so bone broth is incredible because it, first of all, is extremely hydrating, and especially if you feed a dry food. And I always like to, there can be so many places on the internet that make you feel really bad for feeding a dry food. But I will just tell you, like, I have 2 cats that are outside. They get what they get, but the base of their daily is a dry food. I try to get the highest quality I can get, but that's just what I can afford. So you just do what you can in the season that you're in. But that's where bone broth comes in really great, because you can add it to the bowl and hydrate the dry food, or hydrate the food that you use, and make it easier on the body to utilize and digest the food. And so the hydration aspect's huge. Cats especially are not going to be able to support their body eating a dry food with drinking. They can't. So it's extremely important that their food is well hydrated. And I am a huge proponent of like fresh feeding where you can. Like, to me, especially with cats, that's like so important. But I also understand the other side of it. You also sometimes have cats that have eaten the same food for 12 years, and then you try to do something and they just won't eat it. So, you just got to do what you can. But so bone broth is great for hydrating. That's primarily what I recommend it for if you have a dry fed pet. But then with the hydration also come all of the incredible nutrients and how many emails? I need to cut that off.
Busy.
Let me close this. Oh my gosh. What? I don't
totally
even know how.
It is totally
Did you see the first time Jay heard that ding? She looked
I saw
at
your
me.
phone. I'm like, it's me.
And I was like, no, it's not me.
I know, she's like, it's not me. And I was because she's always like, she
I'm
leaves
always
her
the
phone on
culprit.
every single time, and it goes off while like somebody important is talking, and I'm like,
Can you slap me when I goes off? I need to turn my phone on to disturb too. But yeah, so I quit the mail app. So if it doesn't now, I don't know what's wrong.
it's totally fine.
But yeah, so bone broth is loaded with lots of great nutrients. And why it's so great for gut health is because it has tons of collagen, and it helps supply glycine, which is a protein, and it supplies that to the liver. And the liver makes a very important antioxidant with that called glutathione. And glutathione actually depletes over time. So we need to be supplying that on a regular basis in order for the body to fight off viruses and inflammation. And so bone broth has an abundance of this protein and supply. Yes.
Sorry, for those
Jay has a
listening,
question for those
listening and not watching, I have a question.
Jay just raised her hand.
I forget about that.
No, just because you said glycine, because I just learned that glycine also can help clear the body of glyphosate.
Hey,
and so I literally just bought. Well, I don't know why that thumbs up came up, but I literally just bought a glycine supplement for myself because we've been traveling so much. So we're not eating like organic foods and things like that. And so I've been taking it because of that. But that's why I had to raise my hand, because I would forget. If you think about that, then if we are adding bone broth to these kibble diets, one of the biggest things that it has been tested now across platforms for all the big brand commercial dry foods, kibbles, and cats or cat food is that it's very high in glyphosate.
Yep.
And what we could be doing is helping reverse some of the damage that we're doing, because that's all we can afford, or that's all we can do right now. But we can help reverse some of that by adding in bone broth at the same time. Oh my God, that's lovely. Okay, continue.
I need to look that up. I'm writing it down. So it makes sense to me though, because you're literally like helping the body. Excuse me. You're literally helping the body.
You need some bone broth?
By supplying these protein building blocks in such a, I'm going to go on 5 million tangent, in such microscopic ways. Like, you are not just providing protein, you are providing amino acids, which are protein building blocks, and they are going to be available to the body directly. They're going to be usable immediately without the body having to expend a bunch of energy. So the body can do what it needs to do without really working very hard. So, it makes sense to me, like when you're supplying glycine, the liver can actually properly function and produce what it needs to be able to rid the body of toxins and things that are there that don't need to be there. So, that's awesome that that's something that we're looking at, because, typically it takes a long time for these types of things to come up, but it makes full sense to me that that's how that protein is working. So that's really cool.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And like when you say it really helps like the digestive system, that's so it's so great. And I want really to bring value and to let so many cat parents know this, because I just had 3 DMs today just on Instagram alone, whose cats stopped eating because one of them has some digestive issue. One of them was just spayed, and one of them, they all just have, and they're like really worried. And when it comes to dogs, that's one of the things that's very different about dogs and cats, is that when it comes to dogs, it's like, oh, they don't feel good, it's okay to fast, like it's okay to not feed them anything. But with cats, that can be deadly. It can literally be fatal in some cases. So we have to make sure that we're keeping some calories and some fluids in them. And bone broth is the go-to when your cat is not sick, or when your cat is not eating because they are sick, or because there's an issue, even if they're super stressed, something that we can get into them that gives them all of these nutrients that's not necessarily chewable foods, but is still providing that moisture and those nutrients that they need to sustain life. Bone broth is it's the go-to.
Yes, definitely. I mean, for a cat that is healing from surgery or is sick or, has inflammation in the gut, bone broth is going to supply, like I said, those building blocks to heal the body in a way where the body doesn't have to stress out to try to break down, a actual full protein into the smaller usable blocks. It's going to be immediately absorbable. It's already assimilated to where it can actually pass into the bloodstream through the digestive lining without having any additional work. So it's going to be the thing that gives the body nutrients to heal without having to eat bigger meals. And so the collagen components, especially a cat that has been cat and dog, but cats, that's what we're talking about. Cats that have been exposed to steroids, antibiotics, processed. I really need to get my cats off of kibble. Processed food, like those cats are going to have damage of the gut lining. It's the same for us humans. If we're consuming processed foods and, that's primarily what you're doing, you're going to damage your gut. The nice thing is that you can very quickly make a turnaround and heal that, just depending on, how much the exposure is. But unfortunately nowadays, that's the conventional treatment is, oh, your cat has an inflamed bowel, so we'll just put them on an antibiotic and a steroid. We don't really know what it is, but let's just do this real quick. Instead of going to, okay, let's just try to change the food to, maybe a fresher food, or, implementing, even going from a dry food to a wet food makes such a big difference for their body, because they're no longer chronically dehydrated, which is usually the cause for all kinds of things. What's crazy is that if your cat has an inflamed bowel, that inflammation needs water to reduce and to eliminate that. Yeah. So if your cat is consuming a dry food and they're already struggling with inflammation, or they have a skin condition or anything that's inflamed, and they're not getting hydration in the bowl, so they're already hydrated eating the food. Then they need water to heal the inflammation. They're getting more food that needs more water, and they're going to keep having to, it's this vicious cycle where you just can't ever get ahead. And then the cat will dehydrate to the point where the cells internally will be dehydrated. And that is how we end up with kidney disease.
Yes.
So quickly. By the age of 10, I think it's 1 out of 3 cats gets kidney disease.
Yep.
They cannot live the way dogs can. Dogs, they still need their hydration, but they're, scavenging carnivores. They can kind of handle, but cats just can't. Like,
well, dogs,
with something.
Dogs also, we always say this, that dogs also, like, their tongues are like ladles when they drink water.
Oh, backwards actually.
Yeah. When they drink water, it's they're literally getting hydration. They're getting hydration drinking water. Whereas a cat, if you've ever watched your cat drink water, like, we have videos up close up, and they are literally getting one drop every time. They don't do that. They literally touch their tongue to the water and come back. Touch their tongue to the water and come back. They don't ladle it up. They're not drinking a lot of water. They're getting a drop at a time, and that's why it's so important for cats to get their moisture from their food. Instead of instead of the water bowl, because they just can't make up for it. It's physically impossible for them to make up for the amount of moisture that their bodies need, that their kidneys need, that their GI tract needs. And it's so, like, when you said, like, it kills me that the amount of people that come to us and say, my cat has, you know, an irritable bowel issue, or they have some kind of GI upset, took them to the vet gave me this other very expensive kibble.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, why? Right?
Yeah, it's tough. But I was just going to add about the cat's tongue. What I think is so fascinating, the more we learn about our cats, the more we realize just how incredible they are. Their tongue is not made to drink water. It is made to lick meat off a bone. That's what those bristles are there for.
Yeah, that's what they like.
Groom themselves.
When they lick you, you feel like they're slicing you open.
Right.
Yep.
And like, you just think about how a cat is made, and it really does help you understand what it is that their bodies need.
But that is what's so nuts to me, is like, how are we looking at the biology of both dogs and cats? How did we, I mean, I know this came about 100 years ago, but like, that's the other thing. That's one of my points, what I learned. But how are we not, like, how can we look at the biology of a dog and a cat and think, biscuits, let's go? Like, how? To me, it just, yes, exactly. So that's what I put people are in it to make money.
Yes. I mean, that's how it started, right? If you look at the history of pet food, like, that is literally how it started, because, you know, they're second-class citizens. They're not family members back in that day, right? They weren't family members, but people loved them, and they didn't want them to die. And they had all this leftover shit that,
Watch
you
your
know,
mouth.
I can shit if I want to.
I'll
shit if I want to. But, you know, like the history of pet food, like, that's how it came to be. These kibbles, these biscuits.
They literally had byproducts left from, like, I don't even know what it was, the milling industry. And they were like, let's make a biscuit. And that's literally how we ended up in this situation. And it's so wild to me. Like, I can go on rants and rants and rants, but like,
but to clarify your point, you said that was something else that you wrote down. One of the biggest things that you learned.
People are in it to make money. Was
that literally like a revelation while you were studying and doing research, or was it like just the reality?
Let's just say in school, nobody said, okay, some of my professors worked for Purina. Okay. So, like, let's just say the education wasn't dry food's not good. Like, it wasn't even, that was never even said. I actually, after I was done, I was asked to sub a class and teach a class. And so I was like, okay, I'll teach it on, like, what I've learned, you know? And I literally taught the class about dry food and ingredient lists and how to identify the foods that are in the bag of food that you buy. And I literally there was 2 students apparently that went to my professor and complained because I made them feel like they were killing their dog, supposedly. And I was like, okay. And like, that wasn't okay for me to teach because it wasn't science-based. And now I think things.
But it is. It's biology. Like, it's
exactly. That's what I'm like. That's my thing, is like, we look at the biology of the dog and the cat, look at their teeth, look at the shortness of their digestive tract, the ability of their stomach to grow and you know, expand 70% of its size. You know, just their habits. If they're out, like, I can literally have one cat, I watch him on a regular basis bring up, like, birds, a mole, like, he just drops them and eats them. Like, to me, that's what they do. So how do you look at that animal and think, you need to eat some corn?
right?
Like, how does that right. So, and I'm over here saying all this stuff, and like, I know better, but I also, it's so hard because none of this is to, like, shame anyone and to say, like, you know, you're doing so wrong by your cat. It's just to open your eyes to what has the pet industry and big food and corporations, what have they done and still are trying to do, even though there's so many people who understand what their pet needs. And, you know, I just feel like,
even though they understand, you love them like family, you feed them like family. They're carnivores. They're carnivores. They're wolves. You feed them.
So that's what's so funny is like, have you seen the Blue Buffalo commercial where there's literally like they put the dog and then it goes behind a tree and it's a wolf and then it comes back and it's a dog and then it's a wolf and I'm like, huh? Like what? And then literally like another brand is like completely filler free. I'm like, flip the bag over. Let's go. You want to talk about filler free? Like to me, it's just such false advertising. There's so much marketing and the design of the bags and the products and the way that they just try to misinform. Like to me, that's the sad part is that so many people think that they're doing the best thing. Like, let's just put my husband on a spot. Okay. I met him. He was feeding Blue Buffalo and I don't know if I should be calling out brands like that, but he was feeding a dry food and I met him and he thought he was doing the best. Right. He thought he was doing the best because of there's a wolf on the bag and it's with life bits and it's, you know, then I think back then they were the ones that started like the holistic thing. And I met him and I was like, we're going to switch to raw. And he was like, is this not good? Like he was doing the best. He was doing what he knew was best. And that came from somebody recommending that food. That came from marketing on the bag. What's so crazy is that some of those foods, they advertise with blueberries and strawberries and who knows what else. And the crazy thing is there's a quarter of a blueberry in that bag if you do the math.
Exactly.
The whole bag.
In the entire bag.
Hey, I'm going to put this out here. And I don't know if you got the heads up on this, but for everyone listening, the PER Act, the PER Act, I can't even stand it. It's called that.
We got it. We read it at Urgent Care today.
All 14 pages of it. You want to talk about the mislabeling and the whatever. They're talking about removing AFCO and making it all a federal agency
where the FDA
oversees. This is going to absolutely blindside all of us. Everyone needs to contact their members. And
we'll probably do a whole podcast on this.
Yeah, we will.
But we literally
look it up for yourself, you guys. Look up the PER Act.
It literally says like, if the ingredient is not in there, it's okay to put it on the bag.
It is the way that it's going to, and all this is, I'm sure the people that brought this to Congress are some lobby group from the big.
It's the Pet Food Institute.
Okay.
Yep.
The Pet Food Institute, you guys, is the money behind this, pushing to make this a new, like taking away all the states' rights for regulation, taking away all of that, and just doing this little oversight that's going to make it very easy for labeling.
Which what's so crazy is that the states are already so twisted. Like,
yes.
They get more twisted than what it already is. Like,
exactly.
Like, we talked about like canned food or something, Dana and I just the other day, and I was like, this says with. And that means with, like if it says like chicken with salmon, that means that salmon only has to be, it's under 3%. Like it doesn't have to be more than that. So there can literally be like probably like a drop in a can of food and that's considered fine. Like there's so many things. Oh my gosh, this is like literally something that I was like, how did this not click in your head before? So on Saturday, I went to the farmer's market and I was talking to one of my farmers and I was getting meat for us. And I was looking at him and I said, I bought a steak the other day at Kroger, which is like our local grocery store. And I just wanted a steak and they had grass fed, which is fine. And I was like, I'll just buy this. And $14 a steak at Kroger. Okay. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I made it. It tasted like a cow smells. And I was like,
it wasn't finished.
Oh, it was just gross. It was, I don't even know what happened, but it was not good. I spit out half of it and I was like, I cannot eat this. So I go to talk to him and I know a lot about how animals are kept. This is my bachelor's degree was in animal production. I went to the swine farms. I went to the dairy farms. I saw it all and they tried to make it look real cute to all of us. And then I was talking to the guy and I know a lot about pasture raised, grass fed, all these things. Okay. So to me, grass fed was like, they're on a pasture, like they're grazing, like they're fine, they're out under the sun or whatever. So I'm talking to him and he goes, you do understand, like you do know like what that means, right? And I was like, and then I looked at him and I was like, oh my gosh, they are in a lot, probably not even outside, overcrowded, standing in their own poop, not able to move, most likely in confinement, eating hay. And I was like, how did this never click in my head? So there's such a big difference. And I feel horrible because we're going to change all of our labels, because my labels all say grass-fed. The chicken and turkey say pasture-raised. But there's a huge difference between grass-fed and pasture-raised. You have an animal that lives outside on grass, roaming, moving their body, able to exercise and move the nutrients through the body.
Yep.
And then you have the confined cow that consumes hay instead of grain, and that's their grass-fed.
Do you know what we learned from Rita Hogan when she so it has to, she says it has to be grass-fed and grass-finished.
Yes.
Order. She said, because what they will do is they can say it's grass-fed if it eats grass. Why does that thing keep popping up on my screen? Anyway,
big thumbs.
Shut up. I'm keeping my hands underneath my ass now.
Let's see how long she can do that.
Anyway, so I can't. So it says it. So they can eat grass and they can say it's grass fed. But what they'll do is they'll feed them a bunch of corn at the end to fatten them up before they slaughter them. And so it's not like grass fed is no longer grass fed, right?
But even then, yeah, but it's the same for a cow. Like a cow requires moisture in the grass to properly have their body function the way that it's intended to, for the rumination process to, like, they can survive on hay, but like really in the wild, a cow would graze and move their body. So right. I'm sure that taste came, who knows from where, but yeah, I have heard of that too, and that I knew, but like for some reason, the whole hay-fed confinement situation did not click in my head. So now I'm like, we have to change all of our labels.
Yeah.
So just something to think about for everybody, for themselves too. If you go get your meat somewhere and you think you're buying like, great.
Yeah.
Know where your cows.
And that's regulated by the FDA. So let's just go ahead and give
all the regulations
pet food to FDA too.
Everybody,
I'd be smart.
Everybody download the Per Act, read it, and then contact your.
We'll talk more about that later.
But great point, Flo. Exactly. The power of labeling, and especially when you are coming from a space that like you have this very, very specific mission. You really are making a huge difference as far as, we always say, like you said, there's toxic stuff everywhere. There's this, there's that. There's so much that goes into having a healthy pet now. But what is the one thing that you can do that can make a big impact? You have created an entire company around that, and you work day and night to bring that value to all of your customers. And the power of labeling is significant.
Okay, let me tell you about the labeling though.
Okay.
I have gotten docked and fined and reached out to multiple times that my labels are not allowed to say. That's why they don't say any of those things anymore, because people were like, you can't sell it like this. You need to change all your labels. I, as a small business, the way I am, can't say supports liver health, can't say any of the benefits on my product, and can't list it on my website either. I'm not allowed to share those things because that's the regulation through the specific states. And so it's always very interesting to me that these little companies that are trying to make such a big difference get docked a lot of the time. And then you have these other companies that literally can be like,
blueberries,
filler free blueberries, and there's a quarter blueberry in there. Like, to me,
they have the money to lie.
Do you not have a lobby group working in your?
Where's your lobbyist?
Where's your lobbyist?
Yeah, I need one.
All these federal regulations.
She's like, you guys want to be my lobbyist?
It really is frustrating. And I love that you remain undaunted by it. And I think it's so important, like this podcast, I think it's so important to talk through the benefits of these things. And to me, this is one of those things where take it or leave it, try it and see what you see, right? This is, we can all, I don't know, the linguistic gymnastics that these people go through to try to make, I don't know. But
use your words.
Oh, it is frustrating. I just got. I get frustrated.
I did my number one point that I wrote down of the things that I learned, and I don't even know what the question was and how we got started on this entire 10-minute rant. But the number one thing that I feel like I learned and still always learn now is that you are your pet's biggest advocate. You are the one who can change the life of your pet and the life of many, because if we start demanding different treatment and we start going to our local vet and saying, I want a titer test, I don't want those vaccines, I don't want them all be given at the same time, I don't want, to buy your dry food. If we can, just slowly start to be the people who make that decision and stand up for our pet because of our own research,
the industry,
that's going to change the industry.
Yep.
And people can tell you what they want. They can sell you $120 bag of dry food all day long.
Yes.
But if you know and you've looked into it and you're aware of what is in those foods and you know that that's not something that you're going to want to feed, you will make them think like, what's going on? Why do these people continuously try to change, or continuously try to, not follow what I'm saying? And I feel like it's not that that's intentional. I think that most veterinarians are just not educated that way. And that's because Big Food has them supported, and that's what they learn in school. And there's not a single nutrition class in vet school. There's also not a single nutrition class in med school, by the way. I don't know if you guys ever listened to that podcast that I sent you, but there is no nutrition. We are not focused in pet or human industry on nutrition. What we're trying to do is get our animals and us humans to be sicker so that people up top make more money. Yep. We are trying to addict our animals also to the crappy food. My one cat that I've had, this is my first cat. He loves kibble. He will literally whine to go outside so that he can go find kibble somewhere. And he has the option to eat raw every single day. I give him whatever he wants, like different types, but he still cannot. It's like a habit. He can't kick it. And I think, and it's sprayed with things that our cats and dogs can't resist. And it causes them to, really be attracted to it. And it makes it hard sometimes because certain animals are just so used to it and they don't want to try anything else. And Hurley, my dog, she's laying down here. She's my first dog. She used to be a kibble dog only. She wouldn't even try anything. She would eat meat, but she would not even try a vegetable. Now, this dog, I cannot keep her out of the kitchen. She will eat lettuce 10 times in a row, even though she hates it. Like, she will try whatever she can of fresh food. And I think sometimes it just takes for you to just be like, let's just try it. And you just try it over and over again. And you start adding things to the bowl and you start, doing something. That's where bone broth is so great because it's meaty and it's hydrating. So it's the perfect intro into feeding fresh food because it's easy. You just keep it in the fridge. Ideally, you try to get it to room temperature or warm it up a little bit before putting it on the dry food. But it gives your cat and dog a little bit of, some fresh flavor and something that's going to be exciting and enticing for them to eat. And then that maybe will open the door into adding other things.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice is
because they smell fresh, right?
And just to get on the, oh my God, we have sleeping kitties all over the closet. But just to your point earlier, we were talking about the additives and the palatants that are sprayed on. And I think there was basically it was a study or something, but when you were talking about how incredible bone broth is for healing the gut, it's not a maybe, it is going to make a difference. And I think it's really important for us to recognize the comparison that was made was that when we're feeding, like you said earlier, if all we humans are eating our processed food, it impacts damage, causes inflammation in our own gut. Now think about only having one meal every day. That's all that cats or dogs get. It changes the microbiome in their gut so much so that when you try to switch it up, those microorganisms in there literally are starving for the crap again, which causes that. They compare it to a heroin addiction in humans, because the body, these microorganisms are saying, this is what we need and you're not giving it to us. So that's the power of shifting the health of the gut as well. Just starting with something as powerful and as beneficial as bone broth. When we can recognize it's not like this is a habit. This is literally an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
We are the only ones making the choice. It's like doing an intervention for our own family members to really start making those small changes over time that will give them a totally different life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the mind gut connection, right? Those microbes all communicate with the brain. Yes. And also the immune system primarily lives in the gut. And so we need to, shift things and try to focus on how we can heal the gut so that we can generally improve the health of our pets anyway. And it kind of is like an all-in-one, all-encompassing. But I think the bone broth route is great because you're actually giving the cats a taste for real food. And then that may open up, their interest in maybe like a pre-made raw or something.
But I mean, even if, when we did our Get Fresh with Your Feline week in December, we interviewed a bunch of people and we were just trying to really get the word out there that, feeding fresh is so important. And that even if you can just only make a small difference, like the disease markers can be lowered by a ton by simply adding a little bit of fresh food to the diet. And bone broth, I say, falls into that fresh food category. So that is something that we can add and is easier than maybe cooking some chicken or cooking some beef or something like that. It's a lot easier. You've already done the work. It's got added benefits of detoxification herbs in it. So we're helping clean, helping cure, and helping to literally prevent disease in our cats by simply adding a little bit of bone broth. Now, I want to talk about, because we're way past time already. I want to talk about the amounts that that you would suggest that we give our cats, how we would best give it to our cats, and the big question that we have been getting ever since we said that we were going to do this, which is phosphorus levels and cats with kidney disease. Because I said,
as you pointed out, 1 in 3 by the time they're 10 or 12 years old will have kidney disease.
Yeah.
So let's start with that one.
Okay. So I can understand the concern there. And I think a lot of times, that's actually the number one question I get about our labs is, what's the phosphorus level? So all of them are, and I actually told you the wrong number because the rabbit has the highest and it's 0.04%. And I have actually reached out to the lab because I want to get that in a quantifiable amount. What does that mean per cup, per whatever? So I'll let you guys know that and you can share it. But
minimal.
What?
But it's minimal.
Very minimal.
Super minimal. And the other thing that we talked about is that the proteins are in a super broken down, already assimilated form, right? So it's actually going to be extremely healing on the body to consume bone broth for cats that have kidney concerns, because the proteins are already so broken down and it's easy for the kidneys to filter everything through. Plus you're hydrating the cat, which is extremely important for kidney cats. So I love using bone broth for any pet with kidney issues, just because it's such a usable, product, and the body doesn't have to work a lot. So,
and that's the dandelion, which is also very healing for the kidneys. So
and I mean, we have a bison that we just launched, which a lot of times I honestly, and I think I sent you guys more the smaller prey animal broths. So chicken, turkey, rabbit are going to be your good starters. And I get that question a lot, which one should I start with? And honestly, it just depends on your cat, because you can totally be my cat loves rabbit. And then you get it and they're actually like chicken better. It just depends. But those are typically what I recommend going with. But honestly, my cats drink any of them. They eat any of them. And I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, how much would you suggest to give?
So if you have a dry fed cat, honestly, up to a quarter cup a day. Honestly, in my opinion, you can't really go overboard with it. I have one customer that literally buys a case of broth. She goes through like a bottle of broth with one cat in 4 days. She feeds a lot of it. And you can actually make it like be an appetizer if you want to. They can drink it before the meal if they don't like it mixed. So then that actually will help activate the gut and help kind of lay a foundation of collagen and like healing along the gut lining. But you can totally mix it together with raw food, wet food, dry food. But I would say if you feed dry food, definitely more than when you feed raw or wet food, just to get that really good hydration in the body. But then typically I would say like 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. So if you split it into meals, my cats like to eat like 3 to 4 times a day, depending, whenever they decide that they want to eat. And so I'll just add a little bit to each feeding. So you really can't like overdo it with feeding it. I always like to say like more is better than none, especially if you have a dry fed cat. So, and one thing that I wanted to point out that I wrote down that I get a lot of questions about is our mushroom broth has garlic. And I know a lot of people get very concerned about garlic, but garlic is actually super healing, and there's not that much in the broth that would ever harm your cat. So I had somebody the other day reach out and they were like, oh my gosh, I gave my cat the mushroom broth and it has garlic in it. Do I need to take my cat to the vet? And your cat would have to consume a lot of garlic to get sick. So
like an amount in which no cat would ever even touch.
No, they wouldn't even touch it, period, anyway.
Yeah.
So.
It is so funny because these, like, there's so many myths that are so old school myths and they just keep going. They just keep going and going and going. But this myth that garlic is harmful to dogs and cats, that it's toxic to dogs and cats, has been so far debunked that even like freaking Purina and Iams are putting garlic in their food. Like,
and they always have.
It's that far like removed.
But literally, when you Google it, that's what it like. If people Google, like you like self Google, it literally says like garlic is toxic to dogs and cats, but it's like
not.
No, and it has the same compound as onion, but a lot less of that compound. And yeah, I mean, I think a dog would have to eat like 0.5% of its body weight, so that's like a whole big 5-ounce onion. Like no dog is going to eat an onion. They're not. Like if I drop an onion, like my dog's not going to touch it. And neither do the cats. They are like, no. So no, mushroom broth is perfectly safe. And what I love about the mushroom broth, and I just want to put this out there, is it's very interesting to me that dogs and cats like it so much because it's a mushroom, like very weird. But our mushrooms are grown just 2 hours from here in Missouri. And our shiitakes are actually log grown. So that means that they're actually like, just the highest quality that they can be. They live on a log. They live in the forest. They're absorbing actual air and like non-toxic surroundings. So they're very, very high quality. We only use the fruiting body of all of our mushrooms. So the mushroom broth is going to be extremely healing for the immune system. So it's going to help really kind of regulate the immune system up or down depending on what's necessary. And so that's a really good one to rotate in. If your cat is not going to just drink the mushroom broth, then just mix it with another one. So you can mix the two together. And that's another way to get it in there.
With all these benefits of bone broth,
some people are asking about salt.
Oh yeah, we have like, oh my gosh, I can pull up my labs, but we don't add salt. And
so no salt added, no onions added.
And even if you like are like a DIYer and you want to make some at home, you can actually add Redmond real salt, which is like mined in Utah. And it's actually really healthy. Let's see.
You don't hear that often, do you? That there are actually some healthy salts out there.
Oh, yeah. I eat that like way too much, actually.
All good things in moderation. Have you tried your own broth?
Oh, yeah. I cook with it all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
sodium in rabbit is under 0.02%.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
They're like all those minerals and stuff are super low. So it's minuscule. All of it's just naturally occurring in the ingredients, like we don't add any salt or anything. And then some other question that I get a lot, which I need to do a video about. Sometimes broth will have like fat globules in it. Depending on where I'm at, we don't use machinery. It's me hand bottling everything. So when we get to the bottom of the pot, there's sometimes like some fat that gets into the bottle. And when you put it in the fridge, those fat globules will set up and they will turn into these like white balls or like white substance. That's totally normal. You can just like toss it down the drain or throw it away or even let your cat have it. But I get that question a lot. So if you get any broth from us that has some of those fat globules in it, it's natural. It's nothing bad. It's just real food. And we don't have machinery. And it just is naturally there and it's actually healthy. But yeah, I cook with our broth all the time. I actually taste all of them. And yeah, I'll make like rice with it. Like I'll like use broth instead of water for making my rice, or like I use the mushroom broth for like pasta sauce, which is delicious.
I'm going shopping for me next because all these benefits.
I know.
I definitely.
Okay, so storage. Let's just say storage real quick because storage is always important. So after opening, it's refrigerated, of course, right?
Yeah, so 7 to 10 days once you open it. So the other thing that we've talked about, which we talked about this in Vegas, is like trying to figure out with cats, and depending on how it's well it's received, we have talked about potentially doing smaller bottles. Because with cats, 7 to 10 days is not enough time to sometimes feed a whole bottle unless you have multiple cats. So you can freeze it into an ice cube tray, like a silicone tray. Ideally, I always try to stay away from plastic. So do like a silicone tray, put it in the freezer, and then just thaw like a couple ice cubes at a time. You don't want to freeze it in the glass unless you have like a freezable glass container. But silicone ice cube mold is great. And then use the unopened bottle with it, or open bottle within 7 to 10 days. Unopened, they're good for a year and a half. So just keep
the bottles. So the majority of cat people, listen, cats are like potato chips. Once you pop, you can't stop. You should know that. You have 5. But honestly, like, but like the majority of people don't just have one cat anyway. Right. It would be cool if, and
if they do, it won't last long. Yeah.
So yeah. And the fact that you can share it with yourself, if you do only have 1 or 2 cats and maybe you're just not going to do, I love the fact that it's preservative free and that we're going to use it in 7 to 10 days, because that is a good amount of time if you're testing out for the first time to give it every single day, right?
That's what I like to say. People are like, oh, I need it to last like a month. I'm like, no, you need to use it every day. You want to get it in the body every day, because otherwise you're wasting your money. Yeah. If you wanted to do something.
Yeah.
It needs to be able to work in the body, and it needs to be given consistently for it to reap its benefits. So yes. I say even if you have 1 cat, dish it up.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And your bottles aren't huge already.
16 ounces, so like a pound, I guess. But what's cool is you can repurpose them. So actually on our website we have dispenser tops and spray attachments, so you can use it as like cleaning spray, as dish soap dispenser, lotion dispenser, whatever you want to do. Please do not use the dispenser for broth because you cannot clean it properly. So it will mold. I had a customer, unfortunately, that happened to, and I actually need to make a video about it because they're not cleanable inside the top. They're for soap and lotion only, but that's a way to repurpose them. You can repurpose them into vases. I think Rita Hogan uses them for her tinctures. Like, you can literally do so much with them. And that's why we have the glass bottles. I know that they can be a struggle to ship and everything, but oh my gosh, you can do so many things with them. So,
and you are only shipping within the US right now, correct?
Yes, we don't. I have a lot of Canadian friends who are like, can you come ship up here? And I'm like, we've tried.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So
to get food across the border.
And Judith, on that silicone note, Judith said anybody who's interested in silicone for food batching should check out Super Cubes, SOUPER, Soup or Cubes. That Super sounds cool. Cubes. I'm gonna go check that out.
Yeah. Okay.
We are way over. I love you because you're 2 hours ahead of us. Thank you so much for staying up late.
Gosh,
but I know you've been so crazy busy. What did we forget? I mean, I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours. Yeah. Anything top of mind? We're gonna have to do this again, Flo. You know that.
Okay, so something that I'm really passionate about that I just wanted to share is non-toxic household, like cleaning products and like laundry detergent and
aerosol sprays.
So that's like one of my favorite things, and that plays such a big role. And like a lot of times vets don't look at that. Like nobody asks, like, do you use fragrance candles? Do you have wall plugins? What kind of cleaner do you use on your floor? What's your laundry detergent? Like nobody asks those questions. And so, yeah, if you ever want to do if anybody's interested in that, you know.
Oh my gosh, we've been talking about it so much lately, and it's funny because they don't let the vets don't tell you that you know, the number one. Most vets won't tell you that the number one trigger of both asthma and allergies, which are very rampant in cats, are actually your home chemicals.
Yes. Literally for humans, like that's the number one thing that it says on like a Febreze spray or like a plug-in is literally like asthma is one of the main side effects. We can go on and on about that, but no, I mean, I feel like us three could ramble for like 10 hours.
Yeah, we could. Okay, we'll have you back.
But yeah, no, I guess, to order, just hop over to crudecarnivore.com and use the the cat ladies is the code.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, the link is in the description here.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Link and code in the description here to use the code cat ladies for a very nice percentage off.
Yes.
And to try your own broth.
Flo, for anyone who's as obsessed with you as we are, where can they find you, follow you, listen to more of your
please follow me. Yeah, I try to make content, but here lately I have had no.
You're making bone broth.
You're
making
bone broth. That's good. Yeah.
You're running a business.
We'll get back to it eventually, I guess.
But you're on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep, TikTok, which, I'm there. If you need anything, just message me. Mostly Instagram is where I like spend the most of my like time. But
perfect.
But yeah, this was so much fun. I really like you guys.
We're besties.
We've been so excited about this all day.
Yeah.
And already looking forward to next time. I'm sure everyone here is already looking forward to next time too. The challenge is going to be picking a topic.
Yeah. Well, now we already got our next topic because so now we're just going to give you the dates for October and see if you're available any of those. Let's do it again.
I mean, I feel like we can probably it's funny because I feel like every time you have a conversation, you'll be like, ooh, we should talk about that.
Yes.
Come up with
we have to write it down. We keep texting each other like whenever we have like an idea or something, and then we have to like scroll. An idea.
All right. Thank you guys, everyone, so much for joining us. Flo, you are just an angel. We're so
it worked.
We're sending hearts over here now. Oh, we love you guys so much, and we will see you all very soon. Bye, guys.
Have a great night, you guys. Love you, Flo.
Bye.